This is Tom and Paula Graves from Light of Christ Radio with a story from the Gospel of Mark.
You're welcome to watch this video simply for the story, or you can use it as the basis of a small group study.
Instructions for the small group study can be found below this video in the Show More section.
Today, we continue our series on the Gospel of Mark with the story of the parable of the sower from Mark 4. We'll explore why some don't come to faith.
Now, as we set the context of our story today, Paula, we see that Jesus began his ministry. One of the first things he did was call his disciples.
And then they travel around the area of Galilee or northern Israel, and Jesus teaches and heals. And as a result, many people begin to follow him. Even the Jewish leaders from Jerusalem come to check him out.
Now, not only does Jesus teach and heal, but he also forgives people's sins. And many times, Jesus uses a story or parable to teach a spiritual concept that we're going to talk about today, the parable of the sower.
Right. And the nation's economy was based on agriculture. So Jesus often used stories about farming because that's something that his listeners were familiar with, which brings us to a story from the Word of God.
Another time, Jesus began teaching by the lake, and a large crowd gathered around him. He got into a boat so that he could sit and teach from the lake. All the people stayed on the shore near the water.
And Jesus used stories to teach them many things. One of his lessons included this story.
Listen, a farmer went out to sow seed. While he was scattering the seed, some of it fell by the road. The birds came and ate all that seed. Other seed fell on rocky ground where there was not enough dirt. It grew quickly there because the soil was not deep. But then the sun rose and the plants were burned. They died because they did not have deep roots.
Some other seed fell among thorny weeds. The weeds grew and stopped the good plants from growing, so they did not make grain. But some of the seed fell on good ground. There it began to grow, and it made grain. Some plants made 30 times more grain, some 60 times more, and some 100 times more.
Then Jesus said, "You people, hear me, listen."
Later, Jesus was away from the people, and the 12 disciples and the other followers asked him about the stories.
Jesus said, "Only you can know this secret truth about God's kingdom. But to those other people, I tell everything by using stories. I do this so that they will look and look but never really see. They will listen and listen but never understand. If they saw and understood, they might change and be forgiven."
Then Jesus said to his followers, "Do you understand the story? If you don't, how will you understand any story? The farmer is like someone who plants God's teaching in people. Sometimes the teaching falls on the path. That's like the people who hear the teaching of God, and as soon as they hear it, Satan comes and takes away the teaching that was planted in them.
Other people are like the seed planted on rocky ground. They hear the teaching, and they quickly and gladly accept it. But they don't allow it to go deep into their lives. They keep it only a short time. As soon as trouble or persecution comes because of the teaching they accepted, they give up.
Others are like the seed planted among the thorny weeds. They hear the teaching, but their lives become full of other things, the worries of this life, the love of money, and everything else they want. This keeps the teaching from growing, and it does not produce a crop in their life.
And others are like the seed planted on the good ground. They hear the teaching and accept it. Then they grow and produce a good crop. Sometimes 30 times more, sometimes 60 times more, and sometimes 100 times more.
And this is a story from the Word of God.
If you're using this video for a small group application, after you've watched this video, try retelling the story from what you heard.
Then read the text. Discussion questions are below in the Show More section.
May this story help you on your journey of life.
Be blessed.